This is Respectfully Outrageous with Nathan and Ben.
Today we're talking about Odell Beckham Jr. and NFC East team previews.
Hope you enjoy. Recently, we heard from Mr. Odell Beckham Jr. that he wants to be the highest paid player in the NFL, not just the highest paid wide receiver, but the highest paid player in the NFL. What are your thoughts, Ben?
This is so wrong on so many levels. This is just... He's not even the best wide receiver in the game. That's the first problem. He's not the best player on the Giants. It's the second problem. I have no problem with great players wanting to get paid. I have no problem with that at all. My problem is, not only is he not the best, so he doesn't deserve elite money. He comes off as extremely selfish, greedy, and those all attributes hurt your team, which is contradictory because he said he's a team player.
And what we've seen from him, and especially last year, he has some issues and he's not always necessarily focused on
The game.
in the game, and he's more just kind of on himself a lot.
I'm not going to get into the boat trip at all, but you could also talk about the whole net issue, obviously the continuation, the spoliation over the Josh Norman issue, and just the whole diva personality thing. It's just not healthy. So I don't know exactly what figure would be appropriate. Obviously, he's probably a top 5 wide receiver. So I would say under Antonio Brown, under Julio Jones, under Dez Bryant financially, but above Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders.
Jordan Nelson?
Yeah, I'd put him under Jordan Nelson. More than Cobb. Kind of right around Kelvin Benjamin's financial bracket, Mike Evans' bracket.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is a lot less than he's expecting.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like what Le'Veon Bell said about how he deserves to be the highest paid running back.
But he used to be paid like a running back and a wide receiver too.
The second string wide receiver, like put them together, which is basically elite quarterback money. Which is just...
I understand he's valuable to the team, but
he's not on the field.
Like we talked with that Kirk Cousins thing. He's not going to be on the field. Le'Veon, he's been off the field. He's only played at an average of 12 games.
12 games a year. And then he's not even sometimes he's
out for the playoffs.
Yeah, he's out for the playoffs. Or like this year, he was out. They put D'Angelo Williams in, and they didn't miss a beat.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I give it to you. It's Washington, but they didn't miss a beat. And you put him in, and they're still good. But the difference of having him in against having him out, I don't actually see a major noticeable difference other than in the playoff game against Miami.
Mm-hmm.
He was really beneficial. But he was nowhere to be seen against Kansas City, against New England. I mean, when they took him out, obviously, I think they played better, actually. I mean, but
I'm not saying he's a bad player.
No,
I'm just saying that I think he's becoming a little too focused on himself and not that much on the team.
Right.
Because if he really wanted to play for the team, he wouldn't be asking for all this money.
Right. I also don't think it's just an Odell Beckham Jr., Le'Veon Bell issue. I think it's a whole culture issue in the NFL that I think Kirk Cousins is responsible for this as well. That over time, people have just wanted, I want to be the highest paid player. So the gap, because the salary cap has gone up, so they've just been asking for more and more and more money because of their ego. It's almost like, if he's going to get this money, I want more than him. I want more than him. And it's just not even, you don't even want the money. It's just to say that you have more money.
Right, exactly.
It's just this destructive cycle of I want, I deserve. And the only ones that are really getting hurt by it are your team because they have to give you all this elite money. This is what happened.
And then they can't use it on other things.
It happened in Carolina with the Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams debacle where they overpaid for 2 running backs and they just didn't have financial space. Look in New Orleans, they don't have financial space to do anything. So they have to go on to free agency and be very smart about who they sign because they just don't have the money.
The Browns do not have that issue.
The Browns have as much cap space as you could possibly want. I didn't know you could run a team for that low money. I just didn't know you could put a team together. But if Beckham wants that kind of money, he should just go to the Browns. Um, but the Giants owner was made it very clear that he wants him to be a Giant. I find it really weird seeing Beckham in a different colored uniform.
I would agree.
It just would be awkward. Um,
That being said, though, if he doesn't get a contract, he might leave. But I don't. I think the Giants are going to pay him.
yeah,
I just don't think that they're going to pay him.
What he
They
wants.
should pay him what he wants.
Right. And if they do pay him what he wants, then it creates this whole narrative of, well, if someone really good on your team demands money, you have to cave in.
Right.
Even if he were to leave, that's putting his talent aside. Who's going to deal with all these Beckham issues?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, we know Jerry Jones is tolerant, but I don't think he's going to put up with that.
Mm-mm.
He's not polarizing in the sense of Kaepernick's polarizing, but he's also polarizing in the whole fact of you either love him or you hate him. And I've gone back and forth on Beckham of some games. Some days I'm like, yeah, I'm vibing with Beckham. Some days I'm just like, I can't stand him today.
And I noticed too that the one time he's been in the playoffs, he had 12 targets, I think, dropped 8 of them, and only had 4 catches for 28 yards.
Something like that. And you can't say it's the Packers defense.
No,
You can't say it's the Packers defense because Julio Jones will tell you otherwise. But I believe it was Ladarius Gunter that was on him all game. It was Ladarius Gunter or Quentin Rollins. I know it wasn't Demarius Randall because he's got the longer jersey sleeves. But it wasn't just him. It was Sterling Shepard. He said it wasn't the cold, but I beg to differ.
Well, I mean, they went to Miami to prepare for a game in Lambeau.
Getting it with the boat trip. I don't know if it's the whole boat trip. I think it's more he overpsyched himself out for the game.
Or he just went in too relaxed.
I think it was he was too focused on the game because you see him before the other games. You know, he's playful. He's catching the ball, doing all his one-handed show, the Beckham show before the pregame.
So you're saying he should have relaxed a little bit?
I'm saying he should have relaxed a little bit because I think he let people get to him about Miami.
Yeah.
Because I think people thought Miami was going to affect him, and I think if people would have laid off of him and they just went, okay, he went to Miami, he's back, no big deal. Beckham would have been his same relaxed self, gone out, had a big day. But Aaron Rodgers, being the bad man that he is still going to hit the Hail Mary. And Green Bay's still going to win the game. Cobb's still going to have his 3 touchdowns. It's not going to matter. It's just Beckham will look a lot better on the stat sheet. But the problem, I think it was when he was like, they showed him before the pregame with like his shirt off.
Oh, yeah.
He was like walking around like, the cold doesn't affect us. And like, it's not going to have effect on us, but it's already affecting you psychologically if you have to show to do this.
Yeah.
So I think he overthinks things a little too much. The whole kicking that, but anyway, I think Beckham doesn't deserve the money he's talking about. It's also ridiculous and rude to even claim he should deserve that kind of money. But then again, I'm not an owner. I'm not the one that's going to have to pay him. So
yeah, I don't think he should be the highest paid player in the NFL. No way. Especially when he's got this much issues. You could put incentives in there. You know, if he if he just, I don't know, if he doesn't have these issues off the field, and that'd be something to consider for the Giants anyway.
Well, one problem I have with incentive is you're paying people for good behavior, which is a problem. You should be. I mean, you're a professional. You should be well behaved in the first place. But if you're saying incentives like Marshawn, like was it like not Marshawn's, but Eddie Lacy's contract, if you're under a certain weight,
oh yeah,
and then you get some, and then if you do this, and this, you work your way up to a massive contract. I don't have a problem doing that. But like if you hit so many stats, you go to a playoff game, you do this, then fine, you can make it huge. But if you just pay him a ton of money just to be back on them, no.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, any last thoughts?
I really hope they don't overpay because it's only going to hurt the Giants, which is kind of sad because they have a good defense. They have a young receiving core. Manning's kind of on the tail end of his career. I don't know how many more years Manning is going to be. Manning's going to be a benefit, not a nuance.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, yeah, makes sense. We will be talking about the NFC East in the next part. So. So we're starting a new little kind of mini series here. We're gonna be previewing each team by division. So this week we'll be starting with the NFC East, and we'll start from last year's standings. So top of the list, we're gonna start with the Dallas Cowboys. What are your initial thoughts on the Cowboys this year? How do you think they're gonna play? Not necessarily record, but how do you think they're gonna play? What do they need to do? Kind of improve through this preseason. Uh, any moves you think they should do?
Defense.
I would agree with that one.
Defense.
Yeah.
Their offensive line is going to be the same old, same old.
Well, they did lose Doug Free though, but
He was kind of not throw him under the bus, but of the starters on that offensive line, it wasn't like losing Tyron
right,
Smith
exactly.
Or
Or
their
Zach
center.
Martin.
or Travis Frederick. It wasn't like losing one of those guys, which were just
And they
flat.
still have Lyle Collins,
Right.
who's really good.
So I don't know how they're going to figure out how they're going to move that around. But I think Zeke is going to be year under his belt. I think he's going to be better. I will say I think he's going to do a little bit more pass protection this year.
I mean, we saw a little bit last year. He's pretty good.
He's pretty good.
I mean, he's a bigger back, so I mean that helps too.
Size does help a little bit. I don't know how much hurdling he's going to do this year.
Yeah, if I were him, I would lay off that as much as he can.
Lay off a little bit. But it's better than taking some hits in the knees, though.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think the offense for the Cowboys is going to be fine. I think Switzer is going to be dynamic, taking over Lucky Whitehead's role because of a certain vacancy that Jerry Jones created. Defensively, where do I even begin? Defensive line is a mess. You got players suspended. You got players come back. We don't even know what's happening with Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence. I couldn't tell you what's going to happen with them. Cam Irving, their best pass rusher. I don't know what's going on with him right now. It's just a mess defensively. Sean Lee.
He's getting up there in age.
He's getting there up in age, but
he's a smart guy. He knows how to play the game.
Well, yeah, there he is, but you also need him on the field.
Yeah.
Injury prone. Jalen Smith is also going to help out in the middle. And then on opposite of him, I think there's no glaring weaknesses in that defense in the linebacker spot. The secondary is missing some pieces. Byron Jones is a bright spot, although Barry Church did leave. So
now they have Jeff Heath. Which he played all right last year.
He had that crazy interception against Aaron Rodgers in the
I think
NFC divisional game.
Their safeties will be all right. I don't think it'll be bad. Like, that's not a glaring issue. Their glaring issue is their cornerbacks and their defensive line.
Which is really a problem because the NFC East now has some wide receivers that can have flat out.
You got what? Odell Beckham Jr., Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey,
Jordan Matthews,
Terrell Pryor, Jordan Reed with the tight end.
What's his name? Jamison Crowder.
Oh, yes.
He's going to take off in Washington, I believe. And then you got to worry about Chris Thompson coming out of the backfield, which is going to be a mismatch.
Like Garrett Blount. On the Eagles, if you don't have a stout defensive line, you're going to have some issues up there.
But Gary Blount doesn't go off for yards usually. It's usually
I know, but if they don't have big guys that can get to the line and crash it.
Good point. I mean, Philly does have one of the better offensive lines.
Yes.
So it could be a very ugly game in Jerry World. Moving on to the Giants, where their strength is their defense, especially their cornerbacks, Eli Apple, Jack Rabbit, DRC. I think their defense is going to be really good. We saw Landon Collins come out of nowhere. Their safeties are going to be really good this year. Their linebackers, I think, are the only real weakness for the Giants.
I would say so, yeah.
Especially their middle linebacker and their outside linebacker are pretty glaring weak spots. But, it's nothing free agency can't fix.
Right. I mean, especially in this division like we're talking about, if they can shut down the pass, and they've got an all right defensive line that they can send a blitz and they can stop the run.
I think their run defense was really good last year. Mm-hmm. So if you shut down Ezekiel Elliott, you saw the 10-7 game. Mm-hmm. You expect you have a great defensive line. You get after Prescott. You're going to force him to be running all game and throwing. You saw they did Aaron Rodgers in the first half.
Right.
They got after him, and then they just couldn't keep that on him.
The consistency.
He just made some great throws that doesn't matter how great your defense are, a great throw will always be great coverage. But offensively, their running game is a little bit of a weak spot.
Yeah, that's the most glaring spot at this point.
Their offensive line has some issues as well.
Yeah.
But I could see the addition of Wayne Gallman helping. I don't know if he's going to start because they seem to love Paul Perkins. Their tight end position got solidified with Evan Ingram.
It's a great pick for them.
Just going to spread the things out vertically, kind of like a vintage Green Bay with Jermichael Finley.
Oh, I remember that.
Those are the days. But I think Brandon Marshall is going to create matchup problems trying to put him on their second string guy.
Right.
Or you can move him into the slot.
Or put Beckham in the slot, too.
Put Beckham in the slot. You can create a lot of problems. Or you can even put Evan Ingram in the slot. Or you could line him out wide. There's so many possibilities offensively.
I like the situation with their passing game.
Yeah.
As long as Eli shows up and not Elliott.
Yes. If Eli does go down, they did acquire Geno Smith.
Yes.
And then Davis Webb from Cal as well later in the draft. But I could see the Giants being really good, but I don't see them going into the playoffs because I see somebody else in this division going into the playoffs.
Next, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Which are Ben's contenders to win the NFC East this year.
Make it sound like it's crazy.
I think it's a little too much.
Okay, you and your Cowboys fans over there. Run with that off, and never mind. I'm going to get into it. But with the addition of LeGarrette Blount, Alshon Jeffrey, the way I've seen Carson Wentz be working in practice, I'm not like the Eagles fans crying because it's so beautiful or anything. But some of those draws were pretty great looking. I will be honest with that. The Eagles' defense is still a weak spot, but if Brandon Graham has another season like he did, Derek Barnett shows up, the pick from Tennessee. They got some help from Malcolm Jenkins. I could see the Eagles creating a lot of problems. However, their linebackers are kind of an issue. One of them wants to trade out of Philly. And they don't have that huge number of great corners. So it could be defensively could get a little ugly.
Which is tough in this division.
Which is tough. It's not as bad as Washington's going to be.
Oh, that's true.
But when you have a good quarterback, you have good offense, you got a defensive-minded head coach, you can make things happen. I think the Philadelphia Eagles match up well against the Giants. Match up really well against Dallas, actually. It's a matchup league.
All right.
So I don't think you want Malcolm Jenkins covering Zeke, but you can do different things to win matchups. And I can see
I will say that
stealing a couple wins.
They could definitely do very well. I haven't seen enough of their game film with this current team.
Right.
So
their defense kind of does have me worried.
Yeah. Especially with the Giants and the Cowboys in this division. And you could say the same about the Redskins a little bit. There's some high-powered offenses at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So the Eagles need a solid enough defense really to just kind of hold them off.
Yep.
And just limit them to 3 points and then get Carson Wentz and that offense out there to get a touchdown.
Or create turnovers and stuff like that. But the Link's still a hard place to play at. So I could see the Eagles stealing a couple wins that they might not normally steal because their offense does some crazy things or something like that. But special teams wise, it was kind of fluky for the whole NFL as a whole. But Philadelphia was kind of fluky as well. They had some great plays, but Sproles was aging. So I don't know if you want to put Josh Hush back there. But I don't know what they're going to do special teams wise.
Well, and from looking at this team, my big issue is also not even just creating turnovers, but also turning the ball over. Mm-hmm. We saw that quite a bit with Ryan Matthews fumbling the ball quite a bit. Carson Wentz was not afraid to rip it in there, and he threw some picks. But
That
For
Vikings
instance,
game.
the Vikings and Eagles game, they did create turnovers, but they also gave the ball back.
They did win that game, though. They did win that game.
They did, but that's because they were playing the Vikings. Anyway, but that's my main issue with the Eagles is turnovers and defense.
Mm.
I just think that if Carson Wentz kind of be smarter about the game, about where his throws are going,
So
and now he has Alshon Jeffrey, so he's got a better receiving core, so maybe those issues won't be as much of a problem.
So you want him to go all Alex Smith on this? Very
No.
methodical. Work your way down the field.
No, I'm just saying. I don't know how much he started out great last year.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just he got too comfortable.
I mean,
or
let's
if
be honest.
just-
He did start out against the Browns.
That's true. But what I'm saying is he did play well.
Yes, he did.
Um,
He didn't play well. He played great for a rookie.
mhm.
He would have had a great rookie year if Dak Prescott, when the Cowboys didn't do what they did. I still think Wentz is better than Prescott. I do. I still think he's a better prospect.
Oh, well.
I do.
And if you throw more picks, then
I mean,
you're
look
gonna
at his
throw more
receiving
picks.
core. Dak had that offensive line. He had Ezekiel, he had Des Bryant. Carson's working with Jordan Matthews and Ryan Matthews. It was ugly. It was ugly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Zach Ertz is really good.
Oh, yeah, Zach Ertz is
But you
great.
also have a coach in Jason Witten on the field.
Mm.
Who also leaves people at the bus stop and goes and catches passes.
How is he always open?
I don't know. He's the slowest tight end in the league.
He's always open.
He's always open. And if the Eagles didn't run into each other in the back of the end zone,
Oh, man, that was blown coverage.
that was still one of the wobbliest passes I've ever seen.
Well, because he knew that... Because there was no one that was going to get there in time. I
No,
mean,
he
really.
was just like running and he's just kind
He
of
just kind of chucked it up
he
there.
just kind of like flicked it and he's like, yeah, catch it.
But the fact that that game got to overtime shows you that Philly's a contender.
That shows you Carson Wentz, what he can do. Also shows you the grit of Philadelphia's defense and Brandon Graham. But enough said about Philadelphia. Let's go down to the
laughing stock.
garbage dump of the NFC East. The least of the East. The Washington Redskins.
Washington Redskins. We talked about this team a little bit in one of our previous episodes about Kirk Cousins and the franchise tag.
Also earlier we did a predictions, or way too early predictions. That we might get revamped. But this team is, oh boy.
They've got issues.
Not only did they lose Garcon, which is a huge blow that no one's talking about, they lost Deshaun Jackson, which is just destructive.
And they really do not have an identified running game at this point.
No.
And Kirk Cousins, like we said, is having issues with the team.
Jordan Reed is healthy at the
He
moment.
has not been on the field.
He's healthy at the moment.
Well, but at this point, tomorrow he's going to have a broken leg.
That's why I said at the moment, because he's probably sitting on the couch. He's going to get up and he's going to stub his toe. He's out for 4 weeks. Just the inconsistency of Washington is the biggest problem. Offensively, defensively, inconsistency. You can even talk about their field goal kicker, Dustin Hopkins. The inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
They
can have good games.
They can have really good games.
Like, there are some games when Kirk Cousins can throw for 500 yards and, 4 touchdowns and no picks.
Then you have that game against Cincinnati and London, or the Carolina game. It just gets ugly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they play well enough to beat the Giants. And then it's just the inconsistency. And they're going to lose a lot of explosive plays. Their defense is kind of fallen apart, this seems. Brian Kerrigan can't do it all by himself. But they did go get Jonathan Allen, which is a really good pickup. But I still don't know how much that's going to really help.
Well, and
Because defensive tackle is not the most impactful position.
what do you think their secondary ranks in? Because people are saying that Josh Norman's a great cornerback.
Do you want to? Can we break out the tape? Can we break out some tape?
Yeah, I know.
Because I distinctly remember Ted getting running right down the middle of right down the field, right past him,
With a seam route, just boom.
and some open plays. I do quite remember. I will say this: Josh Norman's positioning on plays is really good.
Mm-hmm.
His hands, maybe he should switch some gloves. Maybe he should get some newer gloves. I don't know what it is, but he dropped a lot of picks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like a lot of them. the one against Carolina.
Again, just inconsistency.
Inconsistency is the biggest problem with Washington. How about their other corners on the other side? Kendall Fuller. That's going to be an issue. Who's the other corner?
Breeland.
Rashad Breeland with his 5,000 puppies. That was adorable. But I think he's okay. The thing is, people need to stop kidding themselves. Josh Norman is not an elite corner. He's elite, but he's not the best corner in the NFL. And the whole saying, well, I'm going to follow people everywhere I go on the field. And then you only stay on one side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
See, at least Sherman's honest in saying, I don't move.
Right.
Sherman started moving now. He started moving a couple years ago. But he's honest about it. He doesn't follow people all over the field. Norman says he does, and then he doesn't. But it seems like Norman only does it for his own personal attention. Like, he only started following Beckham because he wanted to follow Beckham. Not because it was best for his defense.
Right. Again, I think the Redskins really are just, they're not a team, but they're a bunch of players playing for themselves.
Yes. Yes, they are. That describes the Browns perfectly as well. But I think the Redskins defensively need to play more zone coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Josh Norman plays a lot better zone coverage than he plays man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what else to do with defensively. They're just a mess. Offensively, their offensive line is amazing because they have Trent Williams, which just does stuff that people shouldn't be able to do athletically. But I can see the Redskins winning some games, but I can see them just throwing some games, literally because Cousins throws games. Not like throws them to cheat for the help the other team win, but just throws them with mistakes, mental errors,
again,
turnovers,
just inconsistency.
You should get what the Redskins do. Giants fans need to do. They need to put like inconsistency, and Redskins go like red and yellow, and like have like the Redskins like logo like laughing, going inconsistency. Name of the game.
This was one of the most interesting divisions, though, I think. It has shaped up to be, because a couple years ago, and I'll get back to the Redskins on this point, a couple years ago, NFC East was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And now they've completely turned it around, except for the Redskins.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just... And that's something else I was going to say about Josh Norman, is he and Des Bryant had a feud.
Yeah.
And
they did. Yeah, they did.
Did he shut him down? Really?
Josh Norman didn't do that. Josh Norman didn't play poorly.
He didn't play poorly, but that's because Dak was like, well, if you were going to do that to him, I've got these guys over here.
See, what I think what happened was Josh overhyped how big the actual ordeal was.
Yeah.
Like, Josh benefited from the charisma of it. Kind of like LeVar Ball and the whole referee situation. He makes it out to be this huge deal, and he's the one benefiting from it. It's like a scheme to him. He benefits.
Right, yeah.
He's benefiting off the bad press, because any press is good press. Des Bryant, after the game, played it kind of like, I don't really know what you're talking about. I don't even know who he is. Like, he doesn't even matter.
Mm-hmm.
But even after that Cincinnati game, he went off against the ref. He's like, who's not referee number like 83 or something like that.
Right.
By the way, that was a really good coat. He had a really nice coat on. Anyway, back to the point is, he benefits from bad press. He like feeds on it, like his, like he dresses up as superheroes. He feeds on the attention.
Like with Odell Beckham Jr.
So what I think Dak and the Cowboys realized, and credit to Jason Garrett for realizing this, let's just not give it to him.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, if he wants to take Des Bryant in the game, fine. But Des Bryant made some great catches. I think he had a punch out against him. One of the passes were threw it to him, and he punched it out.
And something I've also noticed with the Cowboys, along with that situation when you're saying, let's just not give him the ball, is Des is realizing, hey, if I'm taking this guy away, that opens up the other half of the field.
Yeah. So,
and I think Des has matured a lot more. Because he's becoming more of a team player, which is good for the Cowboys.
Yeah. Earlier in his career, he kind of was like a younger T.O.
Mm-hmm.
And some of his reigns were very entertaining on the sideline. Very entertaining, but it's not just it's destructive for the Cowboys, which is someone who likes the Eagles. There's no problem for that. But Washington, inconsistency. They have like an image crisis. Like the Cowboys are a run team. They run the football. New York, their defense.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia, it's physically tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough town.
Yep.
Tough people. Tough team. Washington, I don't even know how to describe them, but inconsistently.
Yeah.
It's the perfect word. It's just inconsistency.
I mean, because if you think about it,
They also played tired last year. They
really did.
tired. They look like they look like they cheated conditioning.
Like, I remember in the Thanksgiving game, like, the first couple of quarters, it's like, they're playing the Redskins?
They looked gassed.
And they did. But then there was some point where Kirk Cousins would drop back and chuck it to streaking Deshaun Jackson down the field.
Yeah. And then he scored a touchdown, and then he's like dancing. I'm like, you're down by like 13 points. What are you doing? And then there was that insane one-hander by Jordan Reed.
Oh my god.
Falling down like the sideline. He's like, was it like Byron Jones was draped all over him? He had like a bad shoulder that week, and he's coming down with it. It was insane.
Again, I agree. They're totally inconsistent because there are some times where they can create great plays, and then there are some times where it's like, are you guys even trying?
No, there's like the perfect game that describes the Washington Redskins in one game was that London game against Cincinnati. Think of it. It was so perfectly Washington because you had that great play where Cousins threw to Jordan Reed. He caught it. He did the pivot, and he starts running and dives into the end zone, and they score. And then it also describes Cincinnati as overly pathetic. Just pathetic. They go into overtime, and they both miss field goals. And they tie.
Uh-huh.
Because he missed both field goals. That's Washington. Not good enough to go anywhere, but not bad enough to go far enough back so that he can rebuild.
Right.
They're stuck in this destructive cycle, kind of like Cincinnati. Not good enough to go somewhere. Not bad enough where they can get a good enough draft pick and really affect them.
Right, or really try and turn it around.
Yeah. Now that Jonathan Allen's not a good draft pick, I think he's a great player. But I don't think he's going to be that player that goes, well, we put him in there, and he's just, wow, they go from like the 15th defense to the first defense. He's not going to do that. Then again, he went to Alabama. I could be wrong. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we will continue to do this series preview. We've been asking questions on our videos, and no one's really responded. So I also wanted to note that we actually had an NFL player follow our Instagram today. Ricardo Allen, number 37 for the Atlanta Falcons. He's starting safety. We won't get into the play that he got burned on at the Super Bowl, but
I don't know if he got burned on or he got out jumped.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. But we do appreciate feedback, whether that's in person,
positive, negative,
constructive, or just really any feedback. We'll take it because honestly, we're kind of grown at this point, and we really enjoy doing it. We're trying to do more.
But it's also the off season,
so. Right? It's kind of slow at this point, so I think this team preview will get our schedule back up rolling again because we found something we can talk about more.
Hall of Fame games coming up next week.
Yeah, exactly.
Get into that.
This is the last week without football for 2017. So yeah, probably next week we'll come up with another video,
or sooner if something big enough breaks.
So I wouldn't say that we're on a timely schedule at this point.
Inconsistent.
We're like the Washington Redskins. We're inconsistent. So we'll come out when we feel time's right. If you guys really want a video, just let us know. I mean, we're all for feedback or anything like that. At this point, we're just kind of busy, and because it's our summer, we're off from school. When school gets back into rhythm and we have a rhythm, we'll probably go back to weekends.
Yep.
Because then football's back in season as well. So thank you for listening, and enjoy your week.